when you are looking at who you're going to pick for this year's Super Bowl champion, you have to take a long, hard look at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Super Bowl, listen, you want to say playoffs, I'm going to give the Steelers all the respect that franchise deserves. Yes. Obviously, the Mike Tomlin, very well-known stat, never had a team under 500. But to say Super Bowl, I can't get there.
So I believe Big Ben won the Super Bowl in his second year, right? Kenny Pickett's coming into his second year. A lot of growing pains last year, but he won his last 5 games, clearly figured it out. He actually won 5 of his last 6, but in the 6th game that he lost, he only played 1 snap because he got hurt. TJ Watt, they were 8-3 with him last year. Last year was not a good year, and they still, when TJ Watt was on the field, they were a winning team.
Yep.
Now they have all those guys back. They have Kenny Pickett looking incredibly mature. He looks like he has a gun. I know his preseason numbers are insane. I don't care about that, but just the way he does it, he's throwing downfield. That receiving core is legit. Yeah. George Pickens is going to be a star, no doubt about it. Deontay Johnson's going to catch 100 balls because he does every year.
I know, no touchdowns last year, but that was maybe fluke.
And you have Allen Robinson, who was not good with the Rams, but he's at least a legit receiver. And guess what? They don't even need any of that because they're a running team with Najee Harris. So the offense is fine. The defense is ferocious. TJ Watt is like Nick Bosa or Aaron Donald. When he's on the field, he can be an MVP-type player who will win games single-handedly. Great safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick. And they're the Steelers. They're well-coached and solid throughout. I think we're overestimating what happened last year when we're thinking about Super Bowl teams. I think someone's going to come out of nowhere, and I think Pittsburgh has a great chance to be that team.
Well, listen, if it was about last year, we'd be giving the Steelers the same hype that we've been giving the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, they feel
7-2 at the end of the season when TJ Watt came back, everything was great. I just would like, you're a Vegas person. You're somebody who likes to follow the trends and the betting trends. And for how good the Steelers have looked this year, with all the things that you've just said, the people in Las Vegas, the bettors, have not put a change or made a change on any of their preseason numbers when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their over-under to win their games is still 8.5. They are plus 5,000 to make to actually win the Super Bowl, right around teams like the Bears. Right now, they have the longest odds to win their own division in the AFC North. So that might be good value for you as a bettor. Perloff's going to DraftKings right now.
Wait, but you make that sound like the longest, like there's some deep, dark shot in the AFC. I mean, it's the AFC North. It's loaded, and they're right behind everybody else. It's not like they're a crazy dark horse in the AFC North. What are the odds?
Okay, the Bengals are plus 150. The Ravens are plus 235. Cleveland plus 380 and Pittsburgh's plus 450. Like, they're definitely fourth. That's for their division. You're talking about Super Bowl.
That's jammed up pretty close with 2 Super Bowl contenders in that list. First of all, look at that division alone. The Bengals. It's
going to be tough.
Bengals, Joe Burrow is hurt. They could easily fall back. You know the Ravens and the Steelers are going to be in 2 dogfights whenever they play. They're basically the same team. And then you have Cleveland. I think Cleveland should be 4th out of that right now. I haven't seen anything coming out of Cleveland to get me excited. I just think that we're just wrong. We're always wrong. But I think Pittsburgh is going to jump up out of that group. It's going to be tough. It's AFC North. But Pittsburgh, by far, has the easiest schedule in that division. I looked at Warren Sharp. You know, he does his strength of schedule based on projected Vegas wins.
Yeah.
He has Pittsburgh as the 8th easiest schedule in the entire league.
Okay, but
by far the AFC North.
But with
by
all
far
of
the
those
easiest.
factors, why does Vegas still have them at 8.5 wins? Because if you have, say, 9 wins, like that, is 9 and 8 going to be good enough to make the playoffs? Maybe they get in as a wild card and go on a magical run. But, like, listen, the Steelers, it's easy to look at the Steelers and how well Pickett is playing in the preseason and say, maybe this is dangerous here. This is like a not-so-sleeping giant. But nobody is game planning for Kenny Pickett right now in the preseason. You know, this is not teams trying to gear up to try to take him out. I don't think so. And let's see what happens when they actually...
Who are they game planning for? What do you mean, like Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, like I don't think that he's not getting the treatment like, hey, if we take out Pickett, everything else is going to go down. I don't see defenses keying in on him in the preseason in a way that feels like what he might really see in the regular season.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that Yeah, of course. It's a preseason.
Yeah,
Let's not get overexcited about it. But there seems to be a quality about Kenny Pickett that he's just kind of a winner. He won a ton at Pitt.
Listen, I'm a fan. I was the one who stood up for him when he had the small hands conversation at the Combine.
Yeah, and you were. That is absolutely fair. But 8.5 win total doesn't count them out at all. The Jets, who everyone is picking, they're at 9.5. It's not that big a difference. The only reason they're not the Lions is because they're in the AFC. They were in the NFC. I mean, we could just
roll out the red carpet all the way.
We would tell you if you're in Pittsburgh. If you're in Pittsburgh, book your flight to Vegas. That's why the Lions are so hyped, because there's nobody in that division, nobody in that conference. Maybe I'm getting caught up in history. Mike Tomlin is a winning coach, and T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and Minkah Fitzpatrick on defense. It just feels like kind of a 10 years ago Steelers team to me.
Okay,
and I think Pickett is going to be the breakout quarterback of this year.
That's possible. I mean, he's a first rounder, so it's not like he's so out of nowhere. It's not Brock Purdy, but okay, we're going to hear from Tomlin in just a moment. But I'm glad you brought up like the history of the Steelers, which I appreciate, and I am deferential to that. And everyone bows down at the Steelers and their consistency. And
I feel like there's a butt coming here.
Well, I'm just going to give you I'm just going to give you some just pure numbers here.
Okay.
They've missed the playoffs 3 of the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean,
they haven't won a playoff game since 2016, and they've won 3 playoff games total since 2010. They deserve to have the respect that we all give them, but it's not like it's been this real gangbusters run here that the Steelers are just trying to keep going. They're consistent. That's what they are.
I think they're reinventing the early Ben days. So they got caught up with some bad dudes. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I think Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown era could easily be forgotten.
Well, they were successful then.
No, I mean, none of those wins. All the wins came when they had all those veterans on defense. All the playoff success.
Yeah,
a lot of those. And Ferrier and all those guys. Then they got old, and then you were stuck with these high octane, bad character players like Antonio Brown, and they lost. They lost and lost and lost. I think they're recreating really the early Mike Tomlin teams because their defense could be great, and Kenny Pickett kind of reminds me of a young Ben, a guy that he's not going to be Patrick Mahomes, just like Ben Roethlisberger was not Peyton Manning, but he does seem to have a knack to win, just like Ben did.
Here's my other question about the Steelers, which is you mentioned about what happens when TJ Watt's not on the field. Like, it's staggering. Like, they give up like 100 more yards a game or something. Like, the numbers are bananas. It's not even like really indicative of one guy. It's just like what he does for that defense and the system and how it impacts them. And so what happens if he misses?
I can't go. I mean, what happens if Patrick Mahomes is out?
Well, I know, but like when you have the linchpin of a guy who's playing such a physical position, like Patrick Mahomes has like 5 guys who it's their whole job just to try to keep him upright.
And they do a terrible job because he gets hurt 9 times a season. He was limping at halftime of the Super Bowl. No, I don't think I understand what you're saying, but I don't think you can assume TJ Watt's going to get hurt. He sure looked good last night. Ask Taylor Heineke. I mean, he looked explosive.
Well, and the Falcons
I mean, by the way, at least he's in camp. Some of these other great defenders like Chris Jones and Nick Bosa are holding out. So who knows? I think that defense is going to be really good. And you know how predictions are. We overestimate what we saw last year. And I think there was a number of reasons Pittsburgh was down last year. And I'm glad you brought up the Lions. They remind me of that. They feel like they're riding momentum from last year. Kenny Pickett, who's not a young quarterback, he's 25.
Yeah.
Like, he's ready to be like that second-year breakout. He's ready to go, can throw the ball downfield, has a great receiving core, great running back. Now, I do think that the offensive line has been a problem. But
their first-round pick is a backup right now.
Yeah,
didn't have a great camp.
Which doesn't make it. I mean, most rookie tackles are not great anyway.
Yeah. They got Isaac Seumalo, though, from the Eagles.
Yeah, so I think that I think their line is probably going to be better than it's been the last 5 years. So why not?
Here is Mike Tomlin, who is talking about Kenny Pickett's maturity.
I think the growth is probably associated with being him and not necessarily the surface level things associated with the position, but the leadership things, the communication things, the bringing people together things. When you got a higher level of comfort in terms of what it is that you're doing, then those things probably happen more.
All right, so a little bit more comfortable in everything he's doing in year 2. And I'll give you that. In the preseason, he has looked very well. But again, who's game planning right now for Kenny Pickett?
Oh, come on. Don't be a hater for Kenny Pickett.
I loved Kenny Pickett when you were worried about his hand size. I go all the way back to the combine with this dude.
Even last night, he was kind of shot-putting the ball a little bit.
You still don't want to give up the evaluation.
Well, you can't be fickle. Do you love him or do you not love him? I think he had a bad stats last year. I think 7 touchdowns and 9 picks. I think he ends up this year about 25 and 12.
Had the 2 good game-winning drives right at the end of the season.
He's good at the end of a game. He's got a lot of whatever that gene is, the clutch gene. I think that he's going to have pretty good numbers here. It's not even just him. George Pickens feels like an all-pro wide receiver. He looks like a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. And I don't even think that's crazy at all.
Steelers wide receivers.
Yeah, and they know that position. You know how the Patriots can never draft the right wide receiver?
Yes.
The Steelers can do nothing but draft good receivers. It's unbelievable.
Samter has a poll up. What is it, sir?
It's quite simple. Mr. Perloff says not to sleep on the Steelers as a legit Super Bowl contender. Are they? And so far, people don't agree with you, Mr. Perloff.
What's the number?
95.5% say no, they are not.
How many votes are in here? This is, you just put up 2 seconds ago.
Yes.
It's
I'll bet you
early returns.
$1,000 it comes down from 95.
All we have right now is New Hampshire, Massachusetts.
Can't read 7 votes.
Only states in.
In the 10 seconds that we were just discussing this, it went up a few more votes and went up to 96%.
There we go.
All right.
No,
I'll bet you
I know
will
what's
put-
going to happen. Perloff's going to put it on his own.
I will word it the same way because my poll is all NFL fans, and they are going to go. I guarantee we get at least 24% on this poll.